So yeah, I watched a movie, and for these little intros, usually I say a bunch of words to get you interested in what I'm gonna say for the rest of the video, but yeah, I'm kind of at a loss because I'm not quite sure really what the hell I just watched, so that's a thing, and yeah, I got nothing. Cue the music. What's up, guys? How's it going? How you doing? Welcome back as always. So today we're talking about a new Netflix movie called Rebecca. And apparently, from what I gathered of my extremely limited research, and by extremely limited, I mean almost non-existent. But from what I could gather, I guess this movie is a remake of sorts, and also it's a book adaptation, so yeah, I guess that's a thing. And it's not that I couldn't tell you the basic subject of what the movie is about, it's just I'm not really sure what it was trying to do, or what it was trying to do for the audience, and what it was trying to do as far as telling a narrative story. Again, I'm at a loss. But anyway, the basic overall story revolves around a character played by Lily James, and I think it takes place sometime in the early 1900s, but I don't recall if the film actually says a specific year. But her character meets a character played by Armie Hammer, and then they start to get a little romantic, a little frisky, and then the movie basically chronicles their entire romantic entanglement and how it progresses. And Lily James's character is kind of this lowly, lower middle class type of person, whereas Armie Hammer clearly comes from some type of wealth, and then he brings her back to his gigantic estate. And the other big thing about the story is that Armie Hammer is very recently a widower, and his wife passed away, and so Lily James kind of tries to, I don't know, fill her shoes de facto in a way. So she's kind of like this fish out of water, and then you kind of see how that progresses, and like a whole bunch of stuff happens basically. And it's really weird because this movie was actually executed extremely well. Like, this is a very well-directed movie, surprisingly. But it's just the emotion and the motivation behind it is really just lost on me, and that's kind of odd, because you think with the amount of genius that came out of the acting performances and the editing and the music and all that other stuff, you would think that the story would also follow suit, but from what I can gather, I feel like this movie may have tried to stay too close to the book, is what I'm guessing, because this felt like it should have maybe been like a 4-part miniseries, because it tried to tell you a lot of different things, or rather I should say it tried to telegraph to you a bunch of different things, but they didn't pay off in a way that was really satisfying, because the movie didn't feel like it had a unified vision. Because in the beginning of the movie, it almost feels like it's going to be like a Leonardo DiCaprio from Titanic kind of thing, where he's like getting invited to these really bourgeois parties and he's got to try and figure out a way to measure up. That's kind of what it feels like for Lily James's character at the start of the movie. But more and more as the movie goes on, you're really not sure what exactly they're trying to make you feel, because it feels like a psychological thriller in some points, and then there's other times where it just feels like a haunted house movie, and then it goes back to being a romantic drama at another point, and then it becomes like a struggle for power between Lily James and some of the people that work in the building. It's really weird. It's very all over the place. Like it's some sort of splatter painting. Like you take every color of paint known to man and you just fling it at the paper and just see what happens. And I have a sneaking suspicion that if this movie may have just cut out the first half an hour of the movie and just started out like at this big gigantic mansion that Armie Hammer lives in, I feel like that might have been a little bit more succinct of a story. But it turns out the final product, it just didn't. But it's like I said, this isn't a wholly terrible film, because as I said, the directing was very well done. Lily James does a very good job at acting. Armie Hammer did a pretty good job for what his character was given. And the lady who kind of plays the head housekeeper, she also did a very good job. And the music in the movie flowed very well. And there were some moments that were meant to be scary that actually came off as quite creepy. But this movie, again, it just didn't pick a specific avenue that it wanted to stick with and then head towards. It just flip-flopped between 4 or 5 different things, and then it just came together as this kind of jumbled mess. And then when the ending came about, I literally just did not care about anything that happened. And that's an even bigger shame, because again, a lot of effort was put into this movie and it shows. And plus there's a few times where there's characters that come in that feel like they should be important, but they end up just kind of being throwaway characters that they could have like truncated their lines and given them to another character and it would have been a little bit tighter. And I'm also not totally sure what some of the characters' motivations are as the film progresses. It gets very muddled. And I also felt like there wasn't enough dialogue in some scenes, which is also kind of weird. Because again, this movie said a lot, but it just didn't say the right thing at the right time, is my impression of it. For example, there's a very intense scene that takes place like near a staircase, and there's a lot of different characters standing around that area. And it gets very tense, but it could very easily have been detensified if one of the characters just kind of explained what they were doing in that particular situation. And it got to the point where I was literally talking to the screen saying, wait, why don't you just say this out loud? That way this person won't feel this way, and X, Y, and Z. And that happened at least a couple times. So there was also some weird logistical things that were were kind of annoying and could have been truncated down to lower the runtime. Because as it stands, the movie's about 2 hours. I think if they really wanted to, they could have turned this into an epically good psychological thriller movie and cut it down to about hour and 35, maybe less than that, minutes. So it's really frustrating to watch this movie when you see there is an awesome movie in there, but it just didn't quite come out, and there's a lot of good things about it. And also, there's a lot of really good, like, physical imagery in the movie, too. But again, it's just, this movie was all looks, and the substance just wasn't focused enough. Essentially, the only thing about this movie that I'm 100% certain of is that it's a period piece. So, yeah, that's something, right? But anyway, guys, overall, it's not a terrible movie. I don't consider it a waste of time after I got done watching it, but I have to say I was not entertained by it, and that's the chief minimum, bare minimum goal that a movie has to do. So I think overall, for a score out of 10, I think I'm gonna give it like a 4.3. If this director does make another film, I will wholly be interested in whatever they make. It's just I'm not so sure about the way the film was written and the way that was arranged and a couple other logistical things about it. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts? Have you seen this movie? Have you heard of it? Have you seen or heard of any of the other versions of this film? Hop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Besides that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, do all that other YouTube-y type of stuff, and I'll catch you guys next time.